Hello internet users, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to take a copy of Pokemon Yellow and show a ridiculous save file where the game will repeatedly crash by using a single level 100 Flareon. On a save file that is far into the game, I'll train a Flareon to the max level, letting it know the moves Tail Whip, Leer, Focus Energy, and Growl, all of which will have their PP maxed out to the highest values. As well, the Flareon will be affected by paralysis, and be given a nickname that uses as many characters as possible. With only this Flareon in the party, and nothing in the inventory, I'll head back to Viridian Forest near the start of the game, and make my way to the center of the map. During my initial playthrough of this save, I intentionally left this bug catcher here undefeated, so he will still attempt to battle me the moment I walk within his line of sight. This particular trainer is actually pretty special for two important reasons. First of all, he is only present in Pokemon Yellow version. If you were to check Red and Blue, you'd find this area completely empty. Secondly, it just so happens that this additional trainer is standing in a position that allows for a very infamous glitch to occur. Most trainers can only spot you from a few tiles away, but this bug catcher is a long-range trainer, which means that he can spot you from the edge of the screen as his sprite is loaded in. In Gen 1, if you press start while a long-range trainer is loaded, it's possible to open the menu before the exclamation mark appears above their head. This is something that was absolutely never intended to happen. By having the menu open this way, it becomes possible to perform so many glitches in this game that it would take several hours to explain all of them. But for the purpose of this video right now, I'll just be doing one simple thing: saving the game. Doing this to a long-range trainer is also something I've done before on this channel. But bear with me here, this is going to go a lot worse than you might be expecting. By saving the game inside of the bug catcher's line of sight, it becomes impossible to avoid battling him. Once the save text closes, he'll instantly spot you before you can try to move again. Even if you turn off the game, it won't matter, because whenever you select continue on the title screen, you'll always load into the map with him instantly spotting you and initiating a battle. It is impossible for the game to accept any other inputs until he walks up to you and his pre-battle text appears. So this means that you cannot bring up the menu and perform any other glitches to escape. The bug catcher's action takes priority over everything, and the player will be forced to battle him 100% of the time. But with all of that said though, many of you are probably wondering why any of this matters. This save has a level 100 Pokemon, and this bug catcher has a level 8 Caterpie. Sure, this Flareon only knows status moves, but it can still just attack by using Struggle once all of them run out. Flareon's 4 moves have a combined total of 205 PP, so after all of that has been used up, the max level Flareon will attack Caterpie, and then the battle should be over. If you turn off the battle animations and set the text speed to the fastest setting, you can mash through the couple hundred turns in just about 22 minutes. And with all of those details in mind, this battle probably doesn't seem like anything special. All you have to do is sit there and waste Flareon's useless moves for a small amount of time. So why on earth did I set up the bug catcher on the overworld, and why am I implying that this will be some sort of softlock? The reason for that is actually pretty simple. In this specific battle, Struggle will crash the game. The moment that this Flareon runs out of move PP and tries to use Struggle, the screen will freeze and the game will become completely unresponsive. Once this happens, there is absolutely nothing you can do to fix it. Everything will stay locked like this until the system is turned off. From here, the problem with this save should be pretty obvious. Every time that you turn the game back on, you'll be forced to restart the bug catcher's battle from the beginning. And remember, selecting and using Flareon's moves is the only way to advance the turns. Because there are no items in the inventory, you can't use anything to stall. And because this Flareon is the only Pokemon in the party, you can't pass turns by switching either. And of course, there is no running from a trainer battle. You can only strictly use your moves to pass the turns, and in that time, it's not possible for Caterpie to knock out Flareon. It simply cannot inflict enough damage to make you lose. No matter what, you will always be railroaded into using up your PP, which will always lead to using Struggle. And when this happens, the game will get stuck on this text box again, forcing another reset. The player is caught in an endless cycle where they're always going to be thrown into a battle that they seemingly cannot win or lose. But let's hang on for a second here. I'm sure that right now, most of you are probably wondering why Struggle is even breaking the game in the first place. What did I do here to make such a simple battle mechanic crash the game over and over? In Generation 1, there is an obscure oversight with how the game checks for move damage. If a Pokemon's attacking stat is higher than 255 and the target's defense is lower than 4, then the game will be unable to calculate damage properly. In this case, when the stronger Pokemon attacks, the battle will become stuck on the text box of the move that's being used. Right now, in our setup, the game is trying to determine how much damage Struggle is supposed to be doing, but because the programmers didn't account for such a huge difference in the stats, the damage calculation gets infinitely repeated as it can't produce a valid result. Keep in mind though that this glitch is not something that really happens when you're doing a normal playthrough. Even if you take a level 100 Pokemon to the first area in the game, the wild Pokemon here will still have defense stats that are higher than 4. The only way to make the crash happen is to use status moves to temporarily lower their defense. You know, the thing that Leer and Tail Whip does. 2 moves which Flareon has to continuously use in order to advance the battle. By saving in front of the bug catcher and giving Flareon these moves, we've created a situation that unavoidably sets up the glitch every single time. Now that I've told you guys this, you're probably assuming that this save is completely doomed and unsalvageable, that the only way to continue using the cartridge is to delete everything and start a new game. But what if I told you that despite everything I've shown, there is still a tiny chance that Flareon can still win the battle? As I said before, the glitch can only happen when the target's defense has been lowered by the use of a status move. And in Gen 1, there is always a random chance that your attacks can completely ignore these modifiers. This happens when you roll a critical hit. That's right, the big reveal of this video is that everything I've discussed is completely irrelevant as long as you get a critical hit on the turn that Struggle happens. Unfortunately though, having this occur isn't nearly as easy as you might assume it to be. You might remember that one of Flareon's other moves was Focus Energy. This probably seems like a strange decision because this move is supposed to increase a Pokemon's critical hit rate. However, for those unaware, this move causes yet another glitch to happen in this battle. Focus Energy is officially meant to make critical hits 4 times more likely, but whoever programmed the move accidentally made it so that they become 4 times less likely instead. The effect of Focus Energy also doesn't go away unless the user switches out. Since that's impossible in our setup, this means that Flareon is always going to have this debuff by the time all of the turns are up. By looking at some older resources for competitive Gen 1 battling, I was able to find out that after Focus Energy, Flareon's Struggle should have a crit rate of about 3.17%. That's a pretty low number, but it's not exactly unreasonable either. But before you get any ideas, you have to remember that it takes a bit of time to even try for a critical hit. You won't get your chance until after the 200-something turns have passed. And as you can see in the footage, Flareon's long nickname and paralysis can make the battle last a bit longer by wasting turns and making the text boxes take longer to display. Like I said earlier, it takes about 22 minutes of optimal mashing to reach the final turn. When I sat down and recorded multiple attempts at escaping, all of them tended to hover around that time range. But keep in mind that this time can fluctuate a tiny bit, depending on how often Flareon misses a turn. Regardless of paralysis though, you should understand now that the odds are not on your side here. Actually think about this for a second. It takes over an hour just to try the escape 3 times. So if a person were to sit down and try this, they could potentially spend a long time resetting attempts if they were really unlucky. Of course though, because I'm the one making this video, I performed attempts at escaping in order to get the footage of the critical hit that you see here. When the Bugcatcher's Caterpie is finally defeated, he'll send out his other Pokemon, Metapod, and because there aren't any more stat modifiers on it, Flareon can simply finish it off with a normal Struggle and win the battle. As soon as the game fades back into the overworld, the escape will be complete, and the player will be able to move around and save the game freely again. But with that said, it's about time that I answered the big question. How many attempts did it take me to get a critical Struggle? I'm happy to tell you that after a long time of chipping away at this, I was finally able to escape on the 63rd battle attempt. To be clear, not all of these attempts were timed super strictly. Once I had an idea of how long it would take on average, I would passively start recording several less optimal attempts, just trying to get the clip of struggle finally landing. But for the sake of argument, let's be generous and say that every attempt took exactly 22 minutes. If someone was completely serious about escaping, those 63 attempts would have taken a total of 1,386 minutes. That amount of time is equal to 23 hours and 6 minutes. So even if I had played every input perfectly, I'd still be looking at an entire day worth of mashing, just to save Flareon from this setup. Obviously though, 63 attempts is only the amount that I happen to get. To me, what makes this softlock so ridiculous is the fact that everyone trying it could have drastically different escape times. Sure, it's possible to boot up the game and escape everything on the first try, but realistically, that's just not going to happen for most people. You can argue that 3% isn't a terrible chance compared to some of the other softlocks I've made, but how many attempts would you be willing to sit through to prove that? After just 10 attempts, you'd have spent close to 4 hours on this. In that amount of time, most of you watching could have just beaten the whole game again from the beginning. If that 3% chance doesn't happen right away, you're probably going to be stuck having a miserable time. And that right there is what I really like about this softlock. Since the start of this video, you've all been watching one of the weakest trainers in the game walk up to the player and boldly declare that you just can't beat him. And you know what? It makes perfect sense for him to be that confident. He's about to enter a battle where he knows that he'll have a 97% chance of his Caterpie going undefeated. Not only that, but he also knows that statistically, most of you wouldn't have the guts to reset the battle enough times to defeat him. And the fact that I can use all of these game mechanics to make this situation happen in the first place is really, really funny to me. My name is Pacaspery, and thanks for watching.